Good afternoon, Chicagoland, and welcome to another edition of the Green Radio Network. Here on the Green Radio Network, we'll bring you a variety of green topics and the latest information on green technology and transportation. This program features environmental leaders throughout northern Indiana and the entire nation. The Green Radio Network is sponsored by NERPC, the Northwestern Indiana Regional Planning Commission, and the award-winning South Shore Clean Cities. Both entities are leaders in the environmental industry and work together to bring cleaner air and more sustainable living to northern Indiana. Now to introduce Carl Lissick, Executive Director of South Shore Clean Cities and the host of the show.
Well, today our guest is Miss Chelsea Uphaus. She's the marketing analyst for ROUSH CleanTech. Chelsea, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, Carl. Thanks for having me.
So I know there's a lot of great things going on with ROUSH CleanTech. Why don't you tell our listeners a little bit about ROUSH CleanTech?
We actually just had a record month of production here at ROUSH CleanTech. We manufacture propane autogas fuel systems for Ford vehicles and also for Bluebird school buses. And we had a great June. We cranked out more tanks and engines than we have in ROUSH CleanTech's history, which we were originally founded in 2010. So we're going on 6 years here, and it's been a really exciting summer for us.
You know, Chelsea, I know a lot of people, are very familiar with the ROUSH name. It's synonymous with fast cars. And I know Jack Roush is one of the leading advocates for ROUSH CleanTech. Give us a little history about ROUSH CleanTech. You said you've been in business for 6 years, but I know that ROUSH has always been a leader in technology. They've always been at the forefront of improving, the quality of life, the opportunities to bring in alternative fuels, and and we're very proud to be a partner with ROUSH CleanTech. But tell our listeners a little bit about where you're located and exactly what ROUSH CleanTech does.
Yeah, well, ROUSH CleanTech is a part of ROUSH Enterprise, which is the same ROUSH racing team that you may be familiar with on the track on Sundays. We're also the same ROUSH Performance, which we do high horsepower Mustangs and F-150s and Raptors. So we really have a wide variety of products here at ROUSH. Our backbone, though, is an engineering services company. So we do a lot of testing, emissions testing, over-the-road vehicle testing for the big OEMs.
Sure. And again, Chelsea, I know that you're very much involved, as you said, working with a lot of these major OEMs. And so a lot of the technology providers actually work with ROUSH to have a lot of their technology tested, correct?
Yeah, so that's a different division within ROUSH. Mm-hmm. We don't mix at all, but we do have a lot of the other alt fuel manufacturers who bring their vehicles to our ROUSH emissions center to be EPA tested and certified there.
Well, I know with the questions we always get through the Clean Cities family is with the price of lower gas prices. How is this affecting ROUSH CleanTech today?
Well, we are getting a lot more questions about fuel prices, of course, but I don't think anybody really believes that prices are going to stay low. Everybody's familiar with gas prices and diesel prices continuing to fluctuate, and I think that's going to be the case over the next 10 years, is that prices are going to continue to ebb and flow, and fleets and school districts are looking for a solution to their fuel costs so that they can actually budget for years at a time, and they can try and get a handle on the costs that they're putting into their vehicles.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, with the years that we've worked with ROUSH CleanTech, that's always been one of the big questions is like, well, what is the historical prices of propane and how does this benefit? So, school corporations and the various fleets that you work with. And again, I think, there's a variety of fleets that we've worked with here throughout the Chicagoland, northern Indiana, Michigan area that have actually just begun to implement propane. And so why don't you talk about some of the advantages of going to propane?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, first of all, you're going to save money on your fuel costs. A lot of times propane is up to 40%, even 50% less the cost compared to diesel and gasoline as well. So right there, you're going to see a big savings. Your emissions are also reduced significantly with propane. You're going to save on your nitrogen oxide, which is your NOx, your greenhouse gases, and your particulate matter as well.
Sure.
Another one of the hidden benefits that we have been trying to promote more and more is that you're going to see significant savings in terms of maintenance. especially on the school bus side, there are so many additional additives and DEF, the diesel exhaust fluid, that you need with diesel school buses that you don't need with propane.
So, as you talk about this, what parts of the country is ROUSH CleanTech really working in, and what have been some of the most successful areas of the country?
We really have school buses all over the place, and we have the other Ford vehicles all over as well. I believe we have school buses in every state except 3 right now, which is awesome. So we're trying to get it in those last 3 states. But then also funding always helps. Funding is a necessary evil. It's a great thing to offer our customers some money to help offset the upfront costs. And right now we're seeing a lot of help with that in Florida, actually Indiana and Illinois. Right here, you guys are a big help for that. California is always looking to reduce their emissions, and Texas is another area where they have non-attainment zones, so they're trying to look at alternative fuels to get away from gasoline and diesel.
Sure. So as you talked a lot about school buses, I think one of the big things that we've seen in Indiana is there's been a huge influx of school buses and school corporations that are moving towards propane. And so as we talk about this a little bit, Chelsea, is what have been some of the barriers that school corporations and even businesses have had? Some of the questions that actually come up towards ROUSH CleanTech. What are some of the advantages, and if there's any disadvantages, what would those be?
Well, we get, every question in the book, but a lot of times it's around safety and how safe are the fuel systems, which you can see that the tanks themselves are 20 times more puncture resistant than gasoline tanks. So right there, you're going to see a big safety improvement over gasoline or diesel. The way that the tanks are mounted is between the frame rails, so there's a lot of protection there. There's no room for concern around the fuel tanks at all. One of the barriers, though, would be the upfront incremental cost, because there is an additional cost over diesel school buses, also over gasoline vehicles. But the way that we talk through that is to talk about total cost of ownership. Sure. And that TCO has been a really big thing for us at ROUSH, because propane is a great option to reduce your total cost of ownership. And that takes into account your fuel costs, your maintenance costs, even things like plugging in the school buses on those cold days to get that diesel bus up and running. With propane, those are going to start right up in the cold weathers.
Yep. And again, I think one of the other things that, just to complement ROUSH CleanTech is that, any of the partners that we've worked with throughout Indiana and the United States is ROUSH is always good at training mechanics. Why don't you talk a little bit about that as you made the transitions with a lot of these fleets. Explain some of the training and some of the opportunities that you work with these various fleets that are implementing propane autogas.
Yeah, absolutely. Our field service team and our complete network is one of our best features at the company. We are very customer focused and very attentive to the customer. We have a hotline that is always manned from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. That's Eastern time, where you will actually talk to a ROUSH CleanTech field service representative to talk you through the steps and to explain the problem that you're experiencing. We also have a training program where we'll send some of our trainers on site to the customer's location, and they can actually work with the mechanics on how to diagnose problems with a propane vehicle and run them through some tests, because we can bug a vehicle to kind of mimic some of the codes that the vehicles would pull.
Well, and again, I think, one of the things that's always been one of the barriers here in the Midwest is, there's been a lack of potential fueling infrastructure. Some of this technology is relatively new, but I will definitely say is that what we've heard is nothing but excellent reports of the school systems and the fleets that have made the transition. And, we're excited to say that, upcoming late summer, early fall, we'll be celebrating with you some of the grand openings with several school districts, and then also with the National Park Service here in Northwest Indiana, and just so many other, great opportunities. So, we have some of these, and working with ROUSH with all these examples. And I think, again, another compliment to ROUSH has been just the way that you've been able to network your current customers with potentially upcoming new customers. And, I think that's really been one of the biggest selling points with ROUSH is, as you said, is your customer service and the technology. And It's just been excellent technology, and I think we're just so excited to be a partner with you on some of these applications and bringing clean energy and bringing clean services and air to northern Indiana.
Yeah, we appreciate it, and honestly, our customers are some of our best salespeople because you can only hear it so many times from your ROUSH rep about how great the system is and how much money you're going to save. But what we found is that prospective customers want to hear it from the people who are actually running the vehicles. They want
That's so true, Chelsea.
Yeah, they want to hear the exact maintenance savings. They want to hear how they're tracking their savings. They want to hear what type of fuel contracts they were able to secure. And that's when we turn them right over to our current customers. And we have a lot of great customers that are huge advocates for propane, and they say they'll never go back to another type of fuel.
That's awesome. So you're listening to the Green Radio Network here on AM 1420 WIMS Radio. I'm your host, Carl Lissick, and we'll be right back with Ms. Chelsea Uphaus from ROUSH CleanTech right after this.
There's nothing more important than spending time outdoors with your family. That's why it's so important to do whatever you can to keep our air clean. It's good for the environment and good for the health of your friends and family. Take a closer look at how poor quality is affecting our community. Across the 3 counties of Northwest Indiana, recent studies from the American Lung Association show that 9% of adults suffer from asthma, 4% live with chronic bronchitis, 38% have a form of cardiovascular disease, 10% of the children in Lake and LaPorte counties struggle with pediatric asthma. Now, the number of adults with asthma is nearly that of adults with diabetes. Consider how diabetics make adjustments to their diet in order to be as healthy as possible. Everyone can make adjustments to improve air quality and the quality of life for those who live with asthma and other lung diseases. Northwest Indiana, clean air, think green, breathe easy. A message from NERPC.
Trying to perfect your backswing? Why not spend a relaxing day on the course while helping out a great cause? At the South Shore Clean Cities 4th Annual Clean Air Golf Outing, you can do just that. South Shore Clean Cities has been helping Indiana go green and reduce energy costs for over a decade. Come and sink a few balls at the Innsbrook Country Club in Maryville, Indiana on Tuesday, September 27th to help raise funds for a local nonprofit. Visit the SouthShoreCleanCities.org event webpage to register today and become part of the solution to pollution.
Welcome back to the Green Radio Network here on AM 1420 WIMS Radio. I'm your host, Carl Lissick of South Shore Clean Cities, here to bring you the latest information on green projects and topics across the nation. Our guest today is Ms. Chelsea Uphaus. She's the marketing analyst with ROUSH CleanTech. Chelsea, we never talked about what is a marketing analyst. What is your job responsibilities?
Well, I have just recently been promoted to marketing manager, so I am handling all of the marketing activities at ROUSH CleanTech, which that is anything from our trade show presence to newsletter distribution to our website, also tours. We host a lot of tours at ROUSH CleanTech, and anybody's always welcome to come by our facility. We like to have an open door policy, and so that we welcome anybody to see how we actually assemble the fuel system. A lot of times people are visual learners, so actually seeing that process in action helps them to understand what it actually means to switch your vehicle over to propane.
Sure. And again, I think if you could give our listeners your website and email address, that would be great.
Yeah. Our website is www.roushcleantech.com. That's www.roushcleantech.com. And you can call us at 800-59-ROUSH.
Again, with all the exciting things that you're working on across the country, I think, one of the questions we always get is, you're out of Michigan, but I know that you're working locally as you're implementing these various technologies into areas of the country. You're actually teaching some of the Ford dealerships, some of the Bluebird bus organizations on getting rapidly deployed training or rapidly deployed service centers. And talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, we work very closely with Ford dealers and the Bluebird dealers especially. We actually created a training program to help work with the Bluebird dealers and teach them how to sell propane school buses. It's a brand new fuel. It's a whole new sale than just trying to sell another diesel bus. So we put together a program that outlined everything from what is propane to the fundamentals of our technology the safety aspects, our service network, like we discussed, and then all the tools available to them. And we worked very closely with a lot of the Bluebird dealers across the country, because there's about one in every state, to train their sales team on how to promote propane.
And again, Chelsea, I'll compliment is just that I know how thorough and how accurate. I always like to say that working with ROUSH is like working with the Cadillac of alternative fuel providers. And again, I know that you do everything the right way, and I would say that to anybody, even on our own radio show, that working with ROUSH is that your customer service and your service network has been wonderful. And we're just excited not only about what we've accomplished with you, but with the future of alternative fuels here in northern Indiana. So, as we're talking, Chelsea, about all these alternative fuels, how many vehicles do you have on the road today with ROUSH CleanTech?
We have hit over 10,000, so we're over 10,000 vehicles on the road today. A lot of those are school buses. I believe we have around 7,500 propane Bluebird school buses on the road. And it's a really good spread throughout the entire nation. Like I mentioned before, we have school buses in every state except 3, and same with White Fleet, the other Ford vehicles. That's your F-250, your F-350, and even larger. But we have them in many states across the country. Propane isn't limited to a certain area. It really does work for a lot of different locations.
Well, I know one of the things and one of the reasons you're here today is that we've been working with ROUSH in Indiana, Michigan, and Ohio on a project called the Midwest Green Drives. And part of what we're doing is Chelsea actually delivered a vehicle here locally, and the vehicle will be available to various fleet folks that would be interested in testing this vehicle. And so I know it's a demonstration project. Basically, the grant that we had applied for allows us to implement this vehicle into various fleet applications where fleet owners, public and private fleets, can actually test this vehicle for up to 30 days. And Chelsea actually just drove down from Michigan with one of the brand new ROUSH vehicles, and we're going to be having that vehicle in various communities and various public and private partnerships here in northern Indiana. So if you're interested in that, please contact Chelsea or go to our South Shore Clean Cities website to find out more about that grant opportunity. So
yeah, thank you, Carl. That's a really good opportunity. We're excited to partner with you guys. We couldn't do it without you on that one.
So I know one thing that people, as we talked, Chelsea, about propane and autogas, something that is relatively new to the ROUSH CleanTech world is compressed natural gas. Let's talk a little bit about ROUSH CleanTech and compressed natural gas.
Yeah, so we are going to have a CNG or compressed natural gas school bus available later this year. We partnered with Bluebird and, of course, Ford on that project. And it really came about because we've had such success with the propane Type C school bus that the market and our school districts and customers were interested in a CNG Type C school bus. Bluebird already had a Type D CNG, so it's just the different sizes of school bus. So this is a brand new platform for Bluebird as well. It's going to have the same Ford 6.8 liter V10 engine in it, and the 6R 140 transmission, which is the same as the propane school bus as well. So it's nice to have the same engine and transmission over the two platforms.
Sure, and again, I think when it comes to serviceability and some of the work that we've heard from your various different customers throughout the country is that they're very excited about some of this new technology. So as you're talking about the CNG Bluebird bus, are there any other CNG projects or products that you're going to be offering?
Right now, we're going to start off with the school bus. We've always been ROUSH CleanTech, so we're not ROUSH Propane for a reason, because we do think every fuel has its place. How we've handled it in the past is really listen to the customer and listen to the market and see where we should head next. So it's definitely a possibility. We don't have anything in the works at the moment. We're going to make sure that the school bus CNG launch goes smoothly, and then we'll take it from there.
Sure. As you talk about CNG and propane autogas, Chelsea, I know one of the questions we always get is like, well, I would love to drive this dedicated vehicle that runs on propane or compressed natural gas, but how do I fuel it? And some of the barriers that we've heard has always been fueling infrastructure. And why don't you talk a little bit about how ROUSH CleanTech is working with various national partners and working with the Clean Cities coalitions to actually try to get infrastructure into these various areas of the country.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, for us, when we are working with a customer to sell them a new propane vehicle, we bring a fuel supplier right into the meetings so that we can get that handled up front before they place the order for the vehicle, because being able to fuel the vehicle is just as important as actually having it. So we make sure that they're involved early. We also work with our Clean Cities partners in case we don't have a contact in that location. The Clean Cities folks, you guys are great with that. So you're also another resource to get us in touch with propane providers. But a lot of our fleet customers, our school districts, will put infrastructure right on their location. One of the small stations takes up about 2 parking spaces, so it's pretty minimal. And so we work through it that way, but we make sure to hold the customer's hands just because it's a brand new technology and it's a brand new fuel a lot of times.
Hey, Chelsea, as you talk about the fueling infrastructure and some of the costs that are associated with fueling, where do you see the market going? Is ROUSH CleanTech? I mean, again, I think you just talked about the 7,500 school buses, and that number probably doubled or tripled from last year, and I think that number will continue to double or triple as we continue to educate our educators, if you will, in some of the fleets across the country on the benefits of propane and natural gas. So, in regards to projections, and I know this is not an accurate number, but obviously this is what ROUSH CleanTech does. But are we going to see maybe every? Probably our goal would be to see every community or every school district start implementing alternative fuels, ROUSH CleanTech buses into their transition.
Yeah, we would love that as well. I think, excuse me, I think right now it's continue to build on what we have. The return customer rate on a propane bus is off the charts. I mean, the number of people who buy one bus and will continue to buy propane buses in the following years. So we're able to build that way. But we are starting to get pretty good traction in a lot of locations. I know Indiana, you mentioned, has a lot of propane school buses, a lot of districts running it. But we have over 500 school districts running propane throughout the country. So we're just hoping that those 500 continue to talk about how much they love their propane bus, and then we can continue to increase that number.
Sure. As we're hearing more about smart city and mobility issues, can you talk a little bit about the future of ROUSH CleanTech and some of the technologies, additional technologies that you might be looking at?
Yeah, we're always open to new ideas and trying to figure out where the market's headed so that we stay ahead of it and we don't fall behind. Right now, we're focused still on launching the propane products that we have this year. We've switched over to a new generation of technology, which is just really improvements for the customer. We're constantly making adjustments so that the user experience is even better. And then also launching the CNG bus. And we do 5-year planning every couple of years, and we are going through that now where we can definitely see more additional products coming into our platform, but we don't have any concrete plans yet. So we're gonna continue to do research and see where the market's telling us to go.
Well, as always, continued success. Any closing thoughts as we come to the end of our show?
No, I just really appreciate you having me on, and we really appreciate South Shore Clean Cities' support. You guys are an excellent partner for us. You're able to help us really have another presence where we can't always make it, and we really appreciate that. Also touching different customers and different end users and really showing them what propane's all about. So we appreciate that.
Well, again, it's a two-way street. I think having ROUSH CleanTech as our Green Radio Network provider is great. We love working with you. Continued success. And why don't you give our listeners your website again?
Yeah, it's www.roushcleantech.com.
And that will do it for today's edition of the Green Radio Network. I'm your host, Carl Lissick. Thanks again to our guest, Ms. Chelsea Uphaus of ROUSH CleanTech. And be sure to join us again on WIMS Radio and Girard Media for the next edition of the Green Radio Network. And visit us online at southshorecleancities.org. And remember, it's never too late to begin your environmental legacy.